your journey going from sort of grassroots, like a volunteer, to then starting to maybe look at doing your coaching badges and getting involved with pro clubs?
Yeah, it's a good question because I came out of it. I only did it for a number of seasons, and I stopped. And it was with my second child when he turned 4. Again, I've got to highlight this point because when my wife starts moaning about my football commitments and my time away and all this lot, she's actually probably the one who set me on the true path for it, because she used to work in a bank, and the secretary or the treasurer from the local clubs, got this random conversation. Said, "Oh, we've got a 4-year-old. Get him down, get him down." And I was thinking he's probably a bit too young, in all honesty, but took him down. I didn't even get involved in the session because I knew the coach who ran it at the time, like Fleetwood Town FC. It was like a soccer school on a Saturday, so I used to just help out. An old coach of mine who was running it. Never even watched my son do it. Then all of a sudden, the bug bites, and you get involved. And I like networking, as you do. Obviously, this is how we sort of became friends. And we just got talking. We had a player who was standout. He was really good for his age at the time. Technically, still now, the poor kid just never grew. Really, he's still probably about 5'7" now, but he never grew. But he was unbelievable technically. And a Burnley scout got in touch. Would like to have a look at him, and we just sort of conversed on players and the local the local area. And I've always had that within me to help other people and give opportunities to people. So after sort of successfully sending this scout in question, plenty of players, he just said, "Would you fancy doing a bit of coaching for us with the pre-academy, like the satellite centre in the local area?" I said, "Oh, absolutely, I'd love that." But again, when you look back as a young coach, I think I might have done my level 1 at this point. And I think the reason why I did the level 1 more than anything was because it was at Liverpool Academy. So it was an excuse to get in there, really, down at Liverpool Academy and have a day out. But it was fantastic. Interesting. There was also a lot of Norwegians on the course as well who would come over to do their English level 1. Within that the setting at Kirkby at the academy. So that was me on the path from there. And again, when you look back, you do your level 1, and then you're keen, aren't you? You want to learn more. You want to do more. And quickly got the level 2. Which allowed me to do the work with Burnley. But again, when you look back as an inexperienced coach, some of the sessions you cringe a little bit, but it's vital for your learning. It's absolutely vital for your learning. So when we've got young coaches on now helping out, we say it's all part of the journey, and even now, I don't think they value coaching as a profession, whereas other countries do. But the time at Burnley was fantastic. I was really lucky as well because on my level 1 and on my level 2, there was an ex-pro in it called Graham Lancashire. He was a local lad from Blackpool who'd played around the lower leagues when he was younger as a pro. So he had that background, and we bonded. We got on really well on the courses. Graham was at Burnley as well at the same time, so that was a good link to have. We used to get all the local talents in, but me being me, I was probably a little bit headstrong at times, and it was almost like, we've got the best of the kids around here, but we're doing 1 session a week. Can we do more? And it just it transpired that with the costs involved of hiring venues and paying coaches and this, that, and the other, it was just the case of you can only do 1. But if you're interested, come down to Gawthorpe at the time. Before it's obviously being redone now at Barnfield, but it's a go down and help out the academy, and that was an incredible experience. So it's been brilliant to watch these, and in terms of Fleetwood, playing a small part in setting up of their academy and coaching within it.
And I mean, it's a fabulous club to see because I've been fortunate with our friendship, Mike, to visit the club on a couple of occasions. And one of the young players that I worked very, very closely with on a one-on-one basis from Northern Ireland here. So it's nice to be able to pop in and see him. But during those couple of visits, it was incredible to see how the club and the training facility went from a few porta cabins and a couple of nice pitches to a state of the art for like a League One chasing championship club. I mean, it's lovely, the facility at Fleetwood.
Yeah, it's a huge selling point for potential signings and coaches as well. Obviously, we've had more recently. We've had Joey Barton down here coaching, and it's incredible. The chairman just wants the best for the club, as do all the employees really. But they don't the best. They're supporting that by putting things in place for it. You know, just been down there this afternoon just to take my son and his mates for a little kickabout. Sat there watching the girls. They've just done like a beer garden as well within it as well. Sun shining, music's on, teams playing football. Like I said, we go back to what we touched on at the start. You know, the street football. You know, kids just playing informally. You know, making their own games up, etc., etc. And you're getting the whole spectrum of it within one family community environment. It's it's an incredible place, mate.
And, you know, comparing the two, was obviously you had the experience, as most coaches that start on the grassroots journey, which has a lot of trials and tribulations as well, of you're maybe waiting to get onto a shared facility before you can set up. You're maybe working with mixed abilities at your team, restricted contact time with them. Comparing that to obviously the academy and the professional side and working at youth level, what did you find apart from getting obvious the main differences and any issues, you know, working at the academy level? Because a lot of people work at pro club level, nice facilities, top level players, but I'm sure there's been, you know, different pressures.
Yeah, listen, I always look at, you know, I'm still heavily involved in grassroots now, and I think I always will be. One, because I love working with players and my passion for the game, but at the same time, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, they're almost like your guinea pigs. They're almost like your, you know, you can try things out with them, and there's no major real comeback, if that makes sense. You might lose a game, you might not have any success, but you know, ultimately you learn and you can take that on. Personally, as a coach, I could take that into, you know, the academy environment, and I believe I was quite successful with it. If I'm totally honest with you. Mm-hmm. But when you're in there, yeah, and it did take me a long time. I was always looking for the right opportunity. I was always looking for the right time and place and what suited me, because it is a huge commitment. For those who aren't in the know, it is almost like a full-time job. With a part-time pay, which again, you know, you very few people do it at this level for the money. You know, most people are in it for the passion of the game. You know, the irony was when I first got in at Fleetwood, my head of coaching was also an FA tutor. One of the first courses I ever went on, he actually turned around and says, "Listen to the group." He says, "You want to make money in football, you'll never be rich." Which is absolutely spot on. You know, there's not a huge amount of money to be gained from working in football, but you know, I think you've used this quote, and I think I might have claimed it from you, if I'm honest with you. But you lead a rich life. Yeah. You know, you lead a rich life, which is fantastic. But to get to your point, the difference is in terms of the player is obviously again. What I really liked about working at Fleetwood is they want to promote local talent. They really want to promote local talent, and given the catchment area that you can only you can scout your talent from within the travelling distances, it is definitely a challenge because you can't get into other areas that other people can. You know, like you mentioned previously, you're competing with not just a lot of professional academies. You're also competing with a lot of you know, Premier League academies as well. So it is difficult. You've got to sort of almost use your coaching program or your facilities as a selling point. But once you've hooked the players and you've got them in, it's then a huge commitment for for the parents and for the families. And people always say it's a bit of a rich person's game now, and I can see why they're saying that, because the commitment to have to go 3 times a week to training. For example, like Fleetwood now are looking to transition to Category 2 status, which will then give them more time. So you're looking at probably 4 sessions of training a week. Then you're looking at your match days all over the Northwest. So it's a huge commitment for the parents, and it's difficult for the players. I know, you know, people having teas on the way home. A lot of these are only young kids, but that's the way football's going now. And if you look at you know, the most progressive clubs, they're mixing it up, like the likes of Ajax, etc. You know, they'll have multi-sports nights and different types of movement sports, etc. So it's not solely football, so it breaks up that monotony a little bit. But you know, that is the big difference, is that you've got a higher ability of player, but you've also got them, you know, 3-4 times a week to work with as well. So you've got to keep it fresh. You can't, especially with the younger age groups, you can't just be taking it too serious all the time. You've got to have a laugh and joke with them as well as hopefully getting your session outcomes and, you know, your weekly targets for the players, etc. I didn't feel I was getting what I wanted out of academy football. You know, I love working with, you know, a whole host of players and abilities, and I love watching sessions. I remember first time I met yourself, I drove over, like, I think it was just over an hour to come and see you. When you was on a trip in, I think it was in Oldham. I think he was going to watch United at one point, but managed to catch you for 10 minutes and have a chat and everything like that. But it was great. You know, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get around different age groups and look at different coaches. But as the academy was brand new, I'm sure, you know, that sort of thing's in place now. But at the time, I was getting the experience, or maybe I just had too much passion for it, and I wanted to sort of get out there and work with other groups. Which is when, you know, the club idea came up. You know, we set up it was like a private coaching session each week, which grew rapidly. You know, it really caught fire. We had lots of age groups coming in, and I was in my element, absolutely loving it, working with, you know, talents that I've been aware of, but obviously playing for different teams, or working at age groups that I don't coach at. So getting to work with them all was absolutely fantastic. It was brilliant. But again, it was that one session a week. You know, for me, it's just not enough. And you've got to try and do more with them, you know. So we said, we'll look at doing 2 sessions a week. And then the 2 sessions a week became, you know, this is much more enjoyable than our grassroots coaching, which, you know, absolutely no disrespect to grassroots coaches out there, because they are grassroots heroes. You know, without these guys who volunteer and who put the hours in, you know, the football pyramid doesn't exist in grassroots. So they're absolutely vital to, you know, the whole structure. However, and again, taking inspiration from people like yourself, they need more. You know, they need more than 1 hour, and grassroots can be a bit of a lottery. You might get a good coach, you might get that parent who's helping out. So when the parents started demanding, well, not demanding, but requesting a little bit more, it was like, it's a no-brainer, this. You know, every summer people will come to you, you know, do you have any space in your team, or can you recommend a club, and this, that, and the other people that are on the move, and you just think, I'd love to work with them, but I can't do it. You know, your squad numbers are limited to what you can take. So we started with 7 players, not having a clue of how it would go in terms of 7 committed to an under 9 team at the time. And by the time we launched in the summer, this was in the May. By the time we started playing in leagues, we had 4 under 9 teams, and then by the January, we added another team. And cut a long story short, now we've just turned 2 years, just turned 2 at the start of May, and we've currently got 12 teams playing league football. We've got 3 who are developing as a squad. The squads are forming, who are ready to go. We've just managed to get a good friend on board who's a fantastic coach, who has left his academy role to come on board with us because he loves the project. His daughter, again, when we talked about the randomness of football, his daughter's probably about 9, 10 maybe. She's in year 4 at school. They've just recently done a girls' tournament, you know, from a class from quite a small school. Really, it's not a big school, and the girls did really well. They've never played before, and then they did another tournament 2 weeks later. The girls loved it, and you know, we said, well, why don't we get them in? You know, it's my mate's daughter. She said there's quite a lot of real potential there. So they've come down a few times. It looks like we've got a girls' team ready to launch as well.
That's amazing. I mean, it's such an incredible, in such a short space of time, it's such incredible growth to have so many teams, and now also girls sections as well. So it's amazing. And I suppose it's you know, everything that you have learned as a grassroots coach, as an academy coach, and to create something special based on your ethos of the game.
Yeah, listen, we don't have any ambition to go and be, you know, the biggest and the best around. We just want to do what we love, and do it to the best of our abilities. And we've absolutely no illusions that we are perfect. You know, there's with that growth comes, you know, I've been working with every team. up until now. You know, every session we work with them. So they're getting a really good standard of what we believe of coaching, coaching to our beliefs and coaching to what we believe kids need or any players need. Very fortunate to be supported by a great group of, you know, these grassroots heroes, the volunteer parents who are our match day coaches who come down and they help out, who do a fantastic job. And again, now we've got a mate come on board who's probably going to be a bit of a catalyst to potential more growth. But it's not so much the growth that I'm personally interested in. It's just it improves our practice, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It improves our delivery. It strengthens our delivery. You know, we're very fortunate. We've got a guy working part-time as well who's a fantastic coach. He works in Blackpool in the Community Trust, but he's had all sorts of experiences around academies himself, from pre-academies to working in academies. Currently still doing a bit in Blackpool Academy at the moment. And he's actually assistant coach for the England amputee team. So again, his wealth of experience between, you know, what we class as the league coaches is vast. You know, it's very good, and we believe that what we're doing is very good, and we also believe what we're doing is what kids need. But like I say, with that comes challenges. And it's a constant challenge, as you'll know, Tim, that you've got to overcome, you've got to adapt and overcome. But again, something that might be deemed as a bit of a negative, we try and find the positives, and we try and make sure that things are in place for, you know, the successful delivery of quality coaching, and that we're doing the best we can do. You know, like I say, we're not perfect, we do get it wrong, but we're regularly reviewing our practice, and we've got plans in place. We're very, very close to signing a lease on our own ground, so we'll have
Fantastic.
We're in touch with the banks, and we've actually got some investors who potentially want to invest in us, which will allow us to buy our own 3G pitch. You know, we won't get a big one. We haven't got 500,000. We're never going to get down that route, I don't think, for the foreseeable future. But it allows us to then not have to ring up the facility providers. Have you got a spare slot here? Have you got an hour here? You know, and then, you know, we've got our own facility that we are able to use at our own discretion, you know, back-to-back sessions. You're not having to shoot from one venue to the next venue. Because I tell you, there's times when Lewis Hamilton will struggle to beat me when we go from session to session, as you'll probably know, mate.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you see, this is the great thing, was on this podcast we spoke to many different coaches, many different nationalities. We've been fortunate to have a few Dutch coaches on, speaking about them, and they laugh at the setup that we have, because over there they're spoiled. You know, they mainly have got a club or two for each village, and they've got their own facility, their own equipment, so people can just come to the club, and everything set up for them at that club, where, you know, their tracksuits are there, their equipment's there. Whereas, I mean, you're similar to me. I've got this green van that is my moving equipment storage unit, you know, with everything in the back, and you're having to go set up. So I know exactly where you're coming from that. There's a message which I love that you have at your club, which is something that we are very big into at TW Braga as well, but the importance of educating not only the players and coaches, but educating parents too.
Yeah, just touching on what you said first, you know, very fortunate to have met BJ through yourself. And what a guy he is like the Oracle, isn't he? There's no one he doesn't know, or there's nothing he doesn't know. And he's, you know, through our friendship and through networking with BJ, we were fortunate. We took under 15s once on a tournament out to Holland. So I know you've done it numerous times, but, you know, that one trip we went on, it, you know, like you say, the facilities is just incredible. You know, you're turning up, and it is just a grassroots club, but the community, they're supported by the council, for example. You know, they charge very, very reasonable rates on the subs. You're not exactly paying over anything different than you probably pay here, but what you get for the money, and what they support, the way they support you, and it's interesting to see that, because over here you could drive 20 minutes, for example, from where I live, and we live in Fleetwood, and we're sort of closed three sides by the sea. So if we drove from our side for 20 minutes, you're probably passing 4, 5, maybe 12 clubs. But they're all they all come together as one club, don't they? So they have
Yeah.
ridiculous. They could have 7, you know, our under 10 section, for example, is very big. We've got 5 teams at under 10, but they'd have 7 or 8 over there, wouldn't they? And
Yeah, it's crazy. Some of the clubs that BJ was telling us about who featured on it was the first episode of the podcast. We've also spoke with Harry Bymans and also Eddie Van Schack, and that's what they're saying. Even like a small club in Holland could have as many as 150 teams within that organization.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But again, it's like you say, I'm trying to paint a picture for the listeners here. When you turn up to that venue, you'll know where your slots are. You're not having to hire multiple venues across different areas. It's a one-stop shop for football, isn't it? You know, and what I really love, and I didn't particularly see it. I didn't particularly see it while I was out there, but obviously talking to the likes of BJ, is that what they do in the community. You know, those buildings are busy all day, every day with not football activities, but with community activities. You know, that clubhouse, for example, is being used constantly for good community purposes, and that's something that we're really keen to. We're really keen to develop ourselves. Myself and Lee, who's come on board with us, you know, and I really do think that we can create something quite what would obviously be around here, which is quite sad, but it would be unique around here, but also, you know, it would also be special. But again, it's not that we're reinventing the wheel. We're just taking the best bits or best ideas from other people who are currently doing it and putting our own spin on it. But again, you know, going back to the question about educating parents and players, you know, once we've got that venue, you know, just having a home, you know, not having that 1 hour, then everyone's got to shoot off. You know, we can get in and we can do, you know, you do some fantastic work on, you know, things and life skills that people might not even think are important. But I know in the past you've had people come in to do money skills with teenagers, for example.
Yeah.
You know, sports psychology for people coming in and listening. You know, people might in attendance might not switch on, but if you've got one person listening who it can change their lives. You know, there's so much good that can be done from having your own facility.
When you've got that platform, I think there can be so many good things that you can do to offer these young people.
Absolutely.
Online classes with the local police force on web safety and protect themselves. So it's just, you know, so much more than football. But you're completely right. That's the downside in the UK and in Ireland. There's not many clubs that have got their own facilities, so you're struggling with that base, you know, and you're just having to try and think a wee bit clever of how else we can use it. And that's something we've brought in with the emergence of Zoom over this pandemic. We always wanted to offer like an education officer, but because we're asking the parents to come out already four times a week, 3 training sessions and a game day, we've now started converting things like this to do it online, that they can do it from the comfort of their own home. So the education officer each week will do an online session. Likewise, our strength and conditioning coach, he will do 2 online sessions a week. So it means that we can offer more, but we just think that wee bit clever that they can do it from the comfort of their own homes.
Yeah, Tim, that's absolutely magic. That is just, again, you know, I do take a lot of inspiration from yourself in what you've done. You know, when in the early days, it was random actually. Because I was just on me, I was as an what do they call them? I was an old student anyway. I was I can't remember what the actual word is, but I started doing my degree at 26 and ended up getting a first class degree in sports coaching. You know, and I've got no GCSEs or anything like that. You know, I wouldn't be one who's classed as an academic, but I loved what I did. You know, and I ended up getting that, but. You know, to get back to your point with the education side of things and stuff like that, Zoom is been one of the real finds, I think, from the COVID situation. You know, I can speak from personal experience with my wife, who kindly stepped forward to do secretarial duties for the club, which again is ridiculous the amount of hours it time consumes, but they've stopped having to go now for managers' meetings, secretaries' meetings, and they're doing it via Zoom, which are lasting anything between 20 minutes and 40 minutes. Whereas if you had to travel, you've got the travel time, and then people still there having a drink and having a chat and stuff, and they're going for hours. You know, and imagine it's the same with yourselves. Even trying to do the good work that you're trying to do, the fantastic work that you are doing. You know, I'd imagine you have to rely on favours to try and get a free classroom from a school or from, you know, someone who can provide it, or have to pay for it to do this good work.
I know, well, that's it. Or
doing
you're
all
having to think
this.
we'll go to a coffee shop, but all of a sudden, like as you say, the past year and a bit, we haven't been able to do that. So it's like,
Yeah, exactly. I know. What's them coffee shops keep you going, don't they?
yeah, yeah.
It's like your one-stop little pit stop and little energy break for you, isn't it? But no, that's brilliant. And again, it's stuff that that'll help us. We can look at stuff like this. You've got older age groups for the strength and conditioning thing. I love the thought of doing that. And if you can do it with minimal equipment as well, can't you?
Yeah.
So you can do that via Zoom in your own home, and there's not that commitment like we talked about academies earlier. Having to do 3-4 times a week. That's a fantastic positive to come out of the COVID situation, and obviously for yourself as well. It's cost effective as well, because I know that you invest in people to do this. They're not doing it out the good of their own hearts. I'm sure they love what they're doing, but obviously you're having to pay staff to do it, which is quite right.
Yeah.
But they're getting a brilliant experience from it.
100%. 100%. And, so the other things like, has there been any ideas in your own club there in terms of the education for not just the players, but the parents? Have you added in anything that we can learn, that the listeners can learn from?
Well, yeah. Listen, again, it's not reinventing the wheel. We believe, and I personally believe, and I always having an education background in terms of working in schools, etc. I do believe we are a little bit different in doing this way, and some people might think it's controversial, but so far so good. It's proven that it really does work. That if your son Tim was in a maths class and he was doing really well, but he wasn't being challenged, you as a parent, you're not going to want him to stay in there because his mates are in that class. Likewise, if they're really struggling, you don't want your son staying in there or your daughter because they're sat with their mates. Ultimately we are coaches and we want players to get better. And if we can put them in a better environment or an environment that's more suitable for their personal development, we do that. And it's sad that the parents see this as like a promotion or a demotion, for example, when it's not. There's we want the parents to basically believe in the process, believe in us. We know what we're doing. You've sent them to us because you believe in us, and I imagine it's the same across every other club. So trust the coach, trust the process, and we will do. As a club, personally, we will do, and again, I'm sure it's the same everywhere else. We will do, or they will do, what's best for that kid. With the best interest of that kid at heart. We have had to move players from other groups, and there's no doubt about it. There's times where parents haven't been happy about it, and in probably the most recent example, the parents turn around and they get the lads settled in great because all our teams train together as well. We don't have that. We don't have that rivalry that can be created from within the same club, where two teams become rivals, which is absolutely madness because, the parent group probably know each other, the kids know each other, they've all got the same likes and interests, and because they play for two different teams, even within the same club, there's a rivalry. We try and avoid that. So any movement of players is almost seamless, and the kid's gone in there and he's absolutely thriving, he's doing really well. And in another instance, we moved. Believe one player needed a bit of time in a certain group. Parents weren't happy at all, and there's no getting around the fact that they probably got a little bit emotional about it. But within 12 months, 2 years in now, that said kid is probably the best all-round player in the age group. He can play multiple positions and do it really, really well. Yeah. And it works. So in terms of, do we have a template of how we educate parents? We try and this is the irony, you'll know yourself, you try things and you have ideas, and it's a process of, trial and error. Yeah. And the irony is, when we talked about the PMA and the time it takes to consume and all the rest of it in your free time, we've looked at doing some similar stuff to that. but it's almost impossible, you know, in a grassroots setting, it's almost impossible to do that. So we do try and get around the parent group and, you know, speak as much as we can do with them, and let them know, you know, how the child's doing, how they're getting on, you know, how the team are doing. Obviously, you've got your WhatsApp groups, for example, and stuff like that, where you can share information on good practice and, you know, how sessions are going, whether we need a little bit more support from them in terms of getting their child, you know, 2 sessions, or whether we need to get their child to be listening a bit more. You know, maybe a little bit of improvement in behaviour, for example. You know, when going back to the question, it's basically you just want them to trust the process and let you do what, you know, we feel personally we do best, which is educate the player. But, you know, the parents, as you know, and there's even adverts out there trying to highlight the situation. You know, the parents, you are the biggest support of your children. But at times, you know, you can be the biggest hindrance as well, you know, with questioning of things and expecting, you know, expecting things that can't quite happen right then, or, you know, or just completely no chance of that happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does indeed. I think the big thing you said is you trust in the process, and I think as well you've touched on it. We're always honest, you know, it's never always going to be perfect, but you hope that more times than right we do get it right, and creating that environment which is child centered is an integral part.